Now, for more insight into the messages coming out of the Fortune Global Forum, we're joined by Deborah Lehr, Senior Fellow at the Paulson Institute. Deborah, what's your take on President Xi's letter to the forum and the message it conveyed to the global business community?
President Xi said in his letter that China's door is not closed. In fact, it's going to be opening. And if that, in fact, is China's intention, that's a very positive signal to the U.S. business community about his intentions for further market opening.
Now, the Chinese government has continuously said that it's going to maintain the openness to the world market. How significant is that, especially with rising protectionism in some other countries?
Rising protectionism is a concern, and I have to say, as a former trade negotiator, that with China, we have not seen the kind of market opening and liberalization that we had expected to see over the last 10 years. But President Xi set the tone in his presentation at the 19th Party Congress, and a consistent message that we've been hearing from the leadership is that they have plans to continue to open significantly across the board in key competitive sectors for the United States, and already we've seen steps in that direction announced. So that's a very positive sign, and we hope to see that it continues.
And which sectors are generating the most interest as China continues to open up?
Well, there's a number of different sectors for opportunity. One, clearly technology is a terrific opportunity as China continues to grow and use mobile and internet apps. Entertainment and content-oriented, internet-oriented sectors, which are of interest to the United States and where the U.S. is very competitive, but also oil and gas, where there were a significant number of deals that were announced during President Trump's visit, and financial services. Those are just a few, but I think the U.S. is very competitive in the service industry, and as China has reoriented its economy, it's going to provide many opportunities for U.S. companies.
So with the opening that we're seeing in China, as well as its shifting in the economy, how do you think all this is going to affect the confidence that foreign businesses have in operating in China?
There's been a lot of concern raised over the last few years by foreign companies operating here. They've been concerned about what some of the trends might be and the fact that markets haven't opened as quickly as they thought they would. But as we start to see these confidence-building measures, as we start to see equity restrictions lifted, for example, a reduction of the negative list, more experiments through the free trade zones and others, it will definitely inspire confidence, and quite honestly, it will help China in terms of meeting its goals on economic growth.
And what else do you think foreign investors really want to see from China?
Well, I think there have been some lingering concerns over protection of intellectual property rights, for example, but as China becomes a more innovative economy, there are domestic vested interests in protecting those interests. One of the key issues, and I think President Xi has made this a priority as well, is rule of law and making sure that not only does China have a world-class legal structure for business and investment, but that it's also enforcing it in a fair and transparent way, which is very important to American companies who operate best within the rule of law, and that in some of these process issues like the National Security Review or the Anti-Monopoly Review, that it's clear how the process is working and that it's done in a very transparent way and not in a way to discriminate against or perhaps give preference to domestic companies.
And as China continues with its push for globalization, how do you think growing confidence in China's openness will work with its Belt and Road Initiative as well as its innovation push?
Well, the Belt and Road Initiative really is quite a brilliant initiative by the Chinese government. And it has inspired countries, which is, almost 65 countries and 3/4 of the world population, to even begin adjusting their own domestic plans to try and attract the infrastructure investment, but also the connectiveness that it will bring. And if China can really succeed in motivating the kind of financial commitments and building infrastructure, which is desperately needed in many countries, it could have a significant positive impact on global growth. And as China seeks to also, as President Xi has made a priority, ensure that these infrastructure developments are done in a green way, China could end up being one of the leading exporters of green development, which would be very significant, not only to the global economy, but to the health of the world generally.
Now, we know that Alibaba's Jack Ma offered up some tips about investing in other countries, specifically China as well, including respecting the culture, strong business leadership, and being patient. What are your thoughts on that?
I thought that was excellent pieces of advice. And what really struck me is not just in addition to management, he said, but when you send your leaders or your business executives to China, they need to be entrepreneurial, not just managers. And I thought that really summed up what the atmosphere here is in China today. It really still has an entrepreneurial spirit. And as somebody has watched the development over the past 20 years, it's very inspiring, and it's always exciting to come here and see the changes, but also feel the opportunities that are ahead.
All right, well, thank you so much for your insights, Deborah Lehr there.